This all good? The legal notice, nothing's changed?
Okay, Josh finished, he says, be over here in about 20 minutes because the inspector's coming, he has to get inside.
Hi, folks, I'm sorry we're a couple of minutes late here. We're going to get the meeting started. This is the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. It is October 19th, 2016, and we're having our meeting in the Community Center on Church Street. I'd like to thank you all for attending tonight. For the benefit of those of you that have not attended a meeting before, I will like to go over a few things for you to understand. We will read the first thing we're going to do is read a public notice, which we have to do for the meeting, and then we will begin listening to applicants and applications, and you will be an applicant will be invited to come forward and make a presentation if they choose to do that. And then we will ask questions, and after that, commission will ask questions, and then we'll open it up to questions from the public. And then when we're done with all the questions, we will ask people in the audience if anybody is either in favor or against the application. Now, I also understand that some of our applications now take 2 meetings, so tonight there might be an application that is the first meeting, and then there will be at another subsequent meeting yet another hearing that you can also attend. Because this is a public hearing and it's we're recording it, it's important that when you say something, you either come up to a microphone or. So that's the best thing to do, but please give us your name and address, and so we know where you live. At the conclusion of all the statements, I will close that particular application, and we will move on to other applications. And then the public, you're either free to stay here for the meeting, and if you want to do that, we would like to have company. But if you don't, you can leave, and then once we make a decision on an application, each applicant will get official notice of our decision for the application. And if any of you that file an application, if we deny it, you have the right, or any aggrieved party that might be an abutting neighbor or something like that has the right to appeal our decision to Superior Court. And I guess that's it, right? Huh? So this meeting, let's read let's see who we're going to see here tonight. We have alternate members, Alan Brown, George Underhill. This is Dick Wallace, Tom Cost, Ray Bauer, Rich Meyer, Phil Johnson is an alternate, Josh Hirschman is a regular member, and Frank DeAndrea is a regular member. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Who was there somebody here that, because all the alternate members sat at the last meeting, right? You sat, and you sat, right? So I guess because I think what we'll do is we'll have George sit tonight. Okay? Is that all right? All right, will you read the legal notice, please?
Sure. Notice is hereby given that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing on October 19th, 2016 at 7:30 p.m. Location being the Nathaniel B. Green Community Center, 32 Church Street, Guilford, Connecticut, in the Monunketuck Room on the 2nd floor for the following purposes. William Thompson, AIA and Associates, Architect, 530 Old Whitfield Street, Ocean Coast. Special permit, coastal area management, site plan, upgrade existing town road, paving existing parking lot, create accessible access at the existing driveway to the marina area, add landscape features. Sections 273-91, 273-97, and 273-79. Joseph Bergen, Architect PC, 65 Highland Ave, Map 9, Lot 41, Zone R2, special permit application, modification of approved special permit granted February 16, 2005 to conform with the original conditions of approval, Section 273-79. John Markowski, Town of Guilford, shack on Grass Island, being Neck Road, map 25, lot 11, zone R6, coastal area management site plan modification to rebuild porch, roof, and floor, section 273-91. Copies of these applications are available for inspection in the office of the Planning and Zoning Commission, Town Hall South, 50 Boston Street, Guilford, Connecticut. At this hearing, persons may attend and be heard, and written communication will be received. Dated at Guilford, Connecticut, this 28th day of September, 2016. Tom Cost, Chairman.
Thank you. I did make an admission. I'd like to introduce the staff, George Kroll, Reggie Reed, Lisa Brewer, Kevin McGee, and our videographer is Peter Schultz.
Peter.
All right? Okay. First item is Country Realty, 349 Boston Post Road, map 83, lot 3, zone R7, special permit accessory, structure over 750 feet. Request to build a 40 by 32 to 180 square foot garage behind house where sunroom and garage once stood, 273-94. This is a second hearing. Would you like to add anything to your application, which you submitted last?
It looks like there's, unless this is new, unless this was already read in the record, looks like there is a letter from Kevin McGee dated October 19th. So that would be today. So I'm going to read it into the record. Did you receive this?
Go get it.
Okay, I'll give it to you when we're done here. This is from Kevin McGee, the environmental planner. And Kevin says that the application is proposing to install a 40-foot by 32-foot, 1,280 square foot garage, just upgrading of a 100-foot wetlands regulatory review zone. The plans provided do not show soil and erosion control measures. In order to make sure that the wetlands are protected, I recommend the following conditions of approval. First, soil and erosion control measures shall be installed downslope of the construction to protect the adjacent wetlands from salutation. Second, the Town of Guilford zoning enforcement officer shall be notified to inspect the sedimentation and erosion control measures prior to the site construction. Soil stockpiles shall be contained by silt fencing and/or hay bales. Soil erosion and sedimentation control measures shall be maintained until vegetation is established or suitable material is installed to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement officer. Third, an 18-inch wide by 18-inch deep stone infiltration trench should be installed under the drip edge of the roof. And fourth, no construction or material may be deposited within the Inland Wetlands Commission regulated review area without their approval. Do you have any problem with these conditions? Or they're all news to you?
Yeah, that's news to me.
Okay, well, you can take this.
It's kind of pretty standard erosion control measures.
Are you having a professional
Well,
install it?
there was buildings there,
Oh, so
and
this
there's
is-
foundation already there.
So this is.
So there won't be any digging or any of that stuff going on.
So I think what Kevin is saying is he wants like gravel trenches adjacent, because it looks like the drip line is right next to where the foundation would be, and I think what he's saying, and Kevin is here, he can tell us, is a gravel trench, a trench filled with gravel on either side of the foundation where the drip line is to allow the water to percolate in rather than hitting hard. Is that correct, Kevin?
Right, it's like what you did with your greenhouse when you come up,
Mhm.
you have that drip path there underneath.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Still pretty much standard with any type of construction. I mean, the plans weren't detailed enough to indicate there was a foundation being built on and stuff. It just said it's in the location of a formal garage and sunroom, so.
Okay.
So then if there's already the construction there, what conditions would not be required, or are they all still required?
I would leave it up to you, the zoning enforcement officer, to take a look and determine the need for it.
Okay. So we will.
Yeah, just one question on it. This is the second hearing. Why is it that the applicant just got notified of this tonight at the hearing and didn't even have a chance to look it over or contest it or agree with it or anything? I'm just wondering if there's a way we can get these things out earlier so that applicants at least have a fighting chance to understand what conditions may be attached.
It goes under workload in the office, and knowing there's a second hearing, last meeting was busy with something else, where I know another meeting provides.
And also, it's like 150 feet away from the wetlands.
Well, I'm just, my only, I understand the work. It just seems like sometimes people get this information so late that they have no idea how to even react to it, and especially here, since it's the second hearing.
I mean, I believe under your regulations, for all erosion control for standards for any site plan application.
Maybe that should be on the printed application.
Correct.
That they fill out or something, add that to it, just so that they're aware they're going to be held to those standards, just so that, they
So-
don't come in and just find out about it.
So Kevin, he's saying that where he's working is 150 feet from a wetland boundary.
Up a hill.
Yeah, so if you were within 100 feet of the wetland boundary, there'd be additional requirements and additional areas that you have to go to. So this is sort of in lieu of, I guess that Kevin, this is close enough that,
Yeah, it's close enough it can impact the wetlands, but it doesn't require their approval.
As long as the wetlands are downhill from the construction site, you can reach a lot further than just 100 feet. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not disputing any of that, I'm just saying,
So noted.
maybe we need to add another footnote to the application or something, but just so that people know they're going to be held to these standards.
We understand.
Okay, is there anybody here that has anybody else here that has any questions about this application? Anybody here to speak for or against the application? We know the applicant's here, but is there anybody else that wants to speak for or against the application? Okay, we're going to close this portion of the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. Next one is Gary Twilliger, 1725 Little Meadow Road, map 97, lot 32, zone R8, special permit, accessory apartment and detached accessory structure, 73-19, and this is also a second hearing.
There's a letter here, too.
Good.
Today.
You want, if we have a letter, why don't we just let him read the letter? So I don't know if you've been made aware of any letters, so.
You want to do it, Josh? You want me to do it? Yeah. This is from Kevin McGee. I'm going to read it to you. This is from Kevin McGee, Special Permit Accessory Apartment, Gary Terwilliger, 1725 Little Mountain Road, Guilford, Connecticut, Assessor, map 97, lot 32. This proposed change involves the construction of a sanitary sewer within the Inland Wetlands Commission's regulatory review area. The Guilford Inland Wetlands Commission, at its October 12th meeting, approved a regulated activity to install septic system for an accessory apartment shown on Gary Maureen Terwilliger, map 1725 Little Mountain Road, dated June 10th. So
That's all good.
all good. Perfect.
And
Perfect.
the wetlands is approved. Yeah, right. And we're just getting confirmation of that.
did you want this letter for your records?
Does anybody have any questions? Okay, is there anybody here that would like to speak either in favor or against this application? Hearing none, I move we close, someone moved that we close.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Thanks, sir.
next application is William Thompson, AIA and Associates LLC Architect for 530 Old Whitfield Street, Ocean Cove, special permit, coastal area management site plan there's site plan and site plan?
Mr. Chairman.
Wait a minute.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah,
Phil Johnson has stepped off.
Okay.
He feels he has a conflict.
okay, in that case then, Alan, you're sitting in on this one.
He wasn't, no, he wasn't sitting. He wasn't sitting. He's an alternate.
Phil's an alternate, you're, okay. Sorry. This is, so it's a site plan, upgrade existing town road paving existing parking area, create an accessible access at the exiting driveway to Marina Avenue, and landscape features. This is the first public hearing, and the second public hearing is scheduled for 11/2.
November already. Can you believe it? Thanksgiving. Just narrow it down right here.
In case anyone wants to look at the big one.
I said our village visible channel, visual channel.
You got the seal on that.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Thompson.
Good evening, Will Thompson. I'm an architect, for the record, 28 South Fair Street, Guilford. I'm here on behalf of the owners of 6 Whitfield Street. This is a request for modification of existing pre-approved CAM site plan and special permit from before. In essence, what we're wanting to do is just make some exterior improvements. We'd like to improve the paving standard of the town access roads and pave the parking lot, create better pedestrian access to the small restaurant from the marina side. And in doing that, we also want to add a few landscape features to soften the site a little more. I'm just going to go over very briefly the location of things, and then I was going to turn it over to Tom Stevens, engineer, to go over some detail, and then to John Cunningham, landscape designer. Just to get us oriented, here's Whitfield Street, Seaview Terrace, it's the main building, the smaller building restaurant, Sluice Creek, public access area, which is a viewing area, existing parking. Over the top of the property, the town has road easement here and here. The yellow highlighted area is what we'd like to go to regular asphalt paving. Right now, it's packed aggregate. This area here, which is now just a private drive, we want to slow things down a little bit, so we're looking at a permeable paver, making it look more like a walkway. We're also making it more ADA compliant. In addition, we'd be adding a curb cut across the way in the town sidewalk, and this has been reviewed with the town engineer, who's in support of this idea. So in essence, now we have a much cleaner connection to the restaurant and the public access area. In addition, we're looking at a little bit more tree planting and a simple pavilion pergola kind of structure on this area of the site, which is fairly bare to do with earlier septic systems. I want to hand it over to Tom Stevens. The thought is to give you all the detail, and then we can follow up with questions.
For the record, I'm Thomas A. Stevens. I'm a professional engineer and land surveyor. My office is at 141 Durham Road in Madison. I have trouble seeing, so I'm going to stand on this side and see how I do it. Can you folks see it all right? The thrust of the application is that the unpaved portions of the site become paved. Right now, Dock Lane is paved from Seaview Terrace to the eastern side of what was the old Stonehouse restaurant. The rest of it, as Will said, is processed stone. So we calculated runoff coefficients for processed stone versus bituminous pavement. It's a difference of about 0.15. So we've sized a subsurface infiltration basin to take the runoff of 1 inch of rainfall and totally assimilate it on site. There are several catch basins on site. One goes to a subsurface system for the roof drainage. One's a dry well east of the building. None of the drainage structures on the site do direct discharge into the water, Long Island Sound. Rather, it's assimilated in the ground. Currently, the water runs down the parking areas and runs into Sluice Creek at the far eastern portion of the site. It's going to continue to go that way, but we're going to capture a certain amount of it with the stone to offset the runoff coefficients. The field meeting I had with Jim Portley, we went over the town, as Will said, town has right-of-way. They don't own the fee, but they have right-of-way for town roads. So the town roads will have different pavement standards than the parking areas. The town roads are going to have 3 inches of pavement versus, they're going to have 4 inches of pavement versus the 2 that the parking area is going to have. Also, the base will be substantially deeper. There's notes at the bottom of the plan. It's easy to read the big ones, but there's notes at the very bottom of the plan that describe doing testing as we get into the project. The town engineers going to determine where we have to replace sub-base or where we can just dress the surface and pave it. The site is very flat on the southern side and on the eastern side, so we can't just overlay what's there, we have to touch it at least by a few inches over the entire site. There's existing grease trap that comes out of Pa's place that's underneath the proposed roadway. Talking to Jim Portley, he suggested that if we could get it out of the right-of-way, he'd be happier with it. So we're taking it out of the traveled way and putting it in the lawn area. We were going to leave it in place and armor it for H20 wheel loading, but it's too busy a job and it's not cost effective. So we're going to put a new grease trap into the north of the building. Where the gazebo and the pergola are proposed, there's remnants of an existing septic system. We can't tell exactly what's there by the as-built, but we know it's going to be in the way of the proposed gazebo and pergola. So we're proposing a new septic system to the north of it to offset what's being lost. Whatever we encounter as we construct the pergola, we'll remove that portion of the septic system and dispose of it. As Will mentioned, this is for handicap accessibility. We're going to go across Whitfield Street. We'll take out 3 panels of concrete sidewalk, reshape it, bring it down for a handicap ramp. And that's going to be opposite the walkway to the east of the main building. Dennis Johnson had suggested that we put manholes on the existing galleries that are going to be underneath pavement. We're proposing that. We've done this in conjunction with both his input and Jim Portland's. I believe there's a letter in the file, or an email in the file from John Goucher, who's in the Office of Long Island Sound Programs. I had several conversations with him regarding the construction of the storm basin. Point of interest, I think it was yesterday, the high tide with the moon, we went out at the high tide period, and we've been monitoring the groundwater underneath the infiltration, and that was the lowest the water was. So the highest the water was supposed to be, that was our lowest reading, but we did set the basin based on the highest groundwater reading. Spillway was in place. That's all I have from an engineering point of view. I'm glad to answer any questions relative to this.
Do we want to start with John, just to give a little more picture?
Yep, that's fine. John Cunningham.
The other one's on the back. This is the mess you are.
Good evening. My name is John Cunningham, owner of TEC Landscape Design, located at 62 Wall Street in Madison, Connecticut. I put this up. This is the existing landscape plan for the site right now. All the improvements that were shown on this plan have been made to date. Okay. The concrete pavers are in the rear area. This drive here is installed. All the plant material is installed. The only thing that's not really installed are the lines on the parking, which would come out of the asphalt stuff. There are 2 separate areas we'd like to work on. First of which, here's Whitfield Street. Okay. Here's the main entrance where the restaurant used to be. This has already been installed, as we discussed tonight. We'd just like to soften up. Right now, it's a full width of processed stone that leads to the back parking lot. It's hard to see. This was done before our last go-around, but we've tightened up the path itself with some type of planting area and/or lawn area. We're not quite sure what we're going to use. It's going to be green, though. So you're going to push the green out into that walkway, so it becomes a walkway that's ADA accessible to both the building and to Pa's place. All right? Still going to stay at about the same elevation. All right?
How many parking spaces have you provided for? For the whole, I want to know what the traffic's going to be in there.
Okay, I'll go back to Tom
Okay.
Stevens for the parking after that, okay?
Thank you.
The second item is up here, okay? It's at a higher elevation, it's about 4 feet above the existing parking lot, okay? So that's blown up now into this area. We've taken both these things to design review last week. They both approved, design review board liked it. The gazebo would probably be in this area. There'd be a trellis system looking back out. This is the marsh view down here. I suggested some fastigiate trees. They would actually be planted in the ground. There's no septic on the bank going back down to the area. We'd also like to use some large concrete containers, 4 by 4 by 4, okay? That way they don't impact any of the septic system. And there are dwarf trees that are going to be planted in those concrete pavers. Design review had one comment, which I think was a good one, taking the staircase, which is where my finger is, and just moving it around the corner. So we're going to be coming up from this side street as opposed to the parking lot. It's going to be large slabs of granite, climbing the 4 feet up to a large kind of a flat sitting area that will be underneath the roof. Okay? This would be an open roof and have grapevines on it. They're going to also be in a concrete planter, so it sits on top of the ground. Okay? The grass or the rest of the area here is probably just going to be maintained as is. Mr. Stevens brought up that if we do encounter any of the existing septic system here, it's going to be used right about where my finger is. Any questions?
Do you have any concerns about erosion and siltation during your work?
No. It's all existing vegetation. So realistically, from a project standpoint, you're going to have 4 posts on the gazebo. They'll probably get done with probably an auger, okay? If this becomes it would become a dry area of pavement underneath. We could, if you wanted to, Rich, we could easily wrap the property, but it's going to be on a flat area. So it grades up to the top, it's on a flat area. I don't see any erosion happening there.
You're okay.
Okay.
On that curb cut, and I don't know if he's going to address it or not, that's on Whitfield Street that you're softening.
Yeah.
So basically, you're taking that to what used to be a vehicle access, and now you're taking that away, and it's going to be strictly walkway.
No. We still are leaving it large enough so a vehicle can get down that driveway. The basic thinking from the owner's standpoint is let's soften that, slow it down, and make it much more pedestrian friendly, meet ADA rules. But the thinking is that, let's say someone's driving by and they see that restaurant, it's nice for them from the frontage side to still have a way in if they're not sure of the area. So the idea is to downplay that as a driveway, slow it down with some basically, I think Tom's plan shows it fairly well, more curvilinear, to kind of traffic calming, so to speak.
How wide is it?
10 feet now, so it was roughly 15, so yeah.
Okay.
Does that answer that?
Perfect.
Yeah. Tom, do you want to go over more? Did you have a parking question, sir?
Yeah, I just want to know what that car flow will be, how many vehicles you having in there in a day?
I don't have any traffic count. I can
No
tell you,
traffic count?
there are 70 parking spaces, but no traffic count.
The parking allocation was all approved in the original filing. This modification is still well within the original count.
Okay, but the appropriate lighting, was that approved too?
Yes, which is already in place.
Okay,
There are
thank you.
2 cutoff fixtures in the parking lot that are there now.
I was just thinking from a restaurant, you have people there at nighttime, and is it safe? That's what I'm looking for. Oh, thank you.
14 feet for the driveway, at least the one spot I measured the existing driveway. Yes.
So erosion and siltation issues with your work, you're going to be tearing up the gravel and regrading. What are you going to do to keep any of that washing into Sluice Creek or anywhere else, or is that not a concern?
It is a concern. Actually, there's silt fence in place from the ongoing construction. We're going to leave that right where it is. And the drainage patterns are all coming down behind that silt fence. And that's not going to change.
So overall, the impact is that there will be a plus or minus in water flowing off the area once you're done from where it's at right now?
For 1 inch rainfall, it'll be the same outflow. For greater than
more than 1 inch.
then there'll be more runoff.
So
15, maybe 15% more.
What percentage of rainstorms are there that are over 1 inch versus how many are under 1 inch? Do you have any idea?
Yes, I do. 1 inch and under is 90% of the rainfall events.
So then for 10% of the time, there'll be more water running off into the neighbor's property, is that correct?
The neighbor will be the Sluice Creek, but yes.
And none goes towards any of the other, there's houses adjacent to the property on Whitfield Street? and-
Right, this is a big, soft swale that pitches to the east.
Just wait, you'll get your chance.
Well, it's not a straw swale, because my garage is right there, and they raise that 4 inches on the town road, the water's gonna run off, they raised there when they allowed the sanitation system for the dock house in there, it'll run off into my garage.
You'll get your chance, just go on. The applicant, you'll get your chance. The application, we're still, the commission's still asking him questions, and then we'll get to the point where you can ask questions.
I'm aware of Mr. Staub's location, and I was coached very carefully not to put a drop of water in the garage, and actually the road is going to be lower in front of it.
You said they were raised 4 inches on that town road.
We actually looked at it. I didn't mean to get it.
Okay, let's just, we'll get to that.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Do we have any letters that we want to read
One
in?
from the town engineer. From James Portley, dated October 19th. Reference of 506 Whitfield Street. The reference plan has been discussed and reviewed with the design engineer and found to satisfy all engineering department standards. If approved by the commission, it should be noted that prior to construction of Dock Lane, East Ave, and Whitfield Street, permits must be secured for and bonding provided as required by the engineering department.
Now, there wasn't anything from John Goucher on this?
He said he had it, I didn't see it.
We don't seem to have that. I've got an email.
I just saw it on my phone here, it came in late this afternoon. So how would you think?
Take it to the second
You
meeting.
can read it at next meeting.
All right, we'll read that at the next meeting. Is there any other letters? Kevin, you don't have a letter at this point?
No, I was waiting for Goucher to get back to us. so-
Okay, all right.
You have it?
Yes.
Read that in, Frank?
Dated Wednesday, October 19th, at 2:53, this came in to Kevin McGee from John Goucher. I reviewed the attached site plan revised on October 17, 2016. The proposed crushed stone stormwater storage retention reservoir has been modified to increase elevation of the bottom of the system such that infiltration is proposed to occur roughly 1.8 feet above the seasonal high groundwater table. The proposed change represents a significant improvement. As such, we have no comments for Planning and Zoning Commission's consideration. Please let me know if you have any questions or if you need any additional information. John Goucher, Environmental Analyst number 3.
Number 3, he was number 2.
Okay.
Office of Long Island Sound. So, no surprise, no comments for us.
Can you tell me about how long this project will take?
We're trying to beat winter. I think it's going to be, I'd say, 2 months to pick a number.
I think for the paving component, that's correct. I think for trees and the pergola elements, that would be in the spring.
So, in the area that you're going to cross Whitfield Street from the walkway to the new curb cut. Is there going to be a crosswalk there?
Yes. It won't be marked. Jim and I discussed it because there is a marked crosswalk just to the north of that site. I'm sorry if I can find it right here.
And it's marked.
That is marked, and we're waiting to see what the use is going to be. We don't want to confuse it. If everybody uses one or the other, then that would tend to be the marked one.
Will this reduce any of the parking on Whitfield Street?
It will not.
Any other questions from the,
I wanted to just share one other, just to give you an idea of the image of what the pavilion and pergola elements might look like. Just, we've deliberately not drawn them all out because we're trying to ascertain precisely the size once the septic, is explored.
I was going to ask you why you say it might look like this, because...
Well, in other words, the plan is that they would look more or less of this style as far as a pavilion and then the pergola elements. And we went over this with design review.
Okay.
It's always helpful to have a picture in your mind.
You said they approved this?
Yes, their only comment was to do with access. They were preferring access to this from this side.
So, Will, I got a question for you. Pa's Place Restaurant is here. Is this going to be used for any of the patrons of Pa's Place to use, this pergola?
My understanding is this is for the campus, basically for the research side, but it also makes the site more attractive. The whole softening of this is definitely to do with Pa's Place as well as the building next door. We want to slow things down. We still want to make sure that people see here's a way in. We also want to make it a lot easier for people walking from the marina to walk in.
So how does this interact at all? At all. Was there not public access to some viewing platform?
That's in place. That's right here. In fact, I can show you a photo from it. It's a beautiful view over there. And currently, the DEP to do with the ramp, kayak ramp, I think we're right now it's actually been officially.
It's being advertised.
And
public
just
notice.
refresh my memory, because it's been a while since the whole ordeal. Is there any parking on the site for the public access, or is that all from Whitfield Street?
On this end.
There's some sites
We
that...
allocated, I don't remember the precise number, we could look it up for the next meeting, but that there were several spaces set aside in addition to the minimum we needed for the public. I didn't make a lot of pictures. That's a view like from the viewing platform. I took that today. Gives you an idea. It's actually quite pretty now that it's starting to be cleaned up.
Can you tell me about how many feet away the gazebo is from Pa's Place?
I'm going to go there. 130 feet.
Okay.
Right now, this whole area, as you've got, this area's been cleaned up, and now this whole area is basically, sometimes people are eating here and they come and sit over in the public access area. It's before when it was all grown up, everyone thought I was out of my mind, but it's really a pretty view. So you were finding that gets used more and more.
In the view, you can't see from the angle here, but can you see the shack on Grass Island from that structure?
I don't think so. I'm not certain. I think you're seeing much more to the east and slightly to the northeast, but
Yeah.
across the marshes.
Yep. Good. Well, I'm good.
Anybody else on the commission have any questions? If it's been approved by the design review commission, shouldn't we have some kind of a note from them?
Well, they just had their meeting a couple of days ago.
2 hours.
Was that last week?
That's
We haven't gotten the minutes from the design review committee yet, I don't think.
All right, so now we're going to get to questions from the audience. Sir, you spoke up before, so why don't you go first? Try to put it in the form of a question, okay?
Okay, I'll put it in the form of a question. Andy Stiles, 5 News, continues to all this property, right? I have a concern only, because it sounds like it was just already. My garage entryway is from Dock Lane. Behind in the parking lot, there's a raised area now because they permitted a sanitation system for the dock house to go over there, so it's raised up now. The asphalt that, which I'm delighted to hear, that the dust will be reduced, but with that pitch, that water is going to be having a lot more speed coming directly down to where my garage is. What kind of protection do I have so I won't have water in my garage?
May I make a suggestion? Do you want to come up to the plan and maybe Mr. Stevens can show you the localized elevations near your garage?
Okay.
Because
You said
the site is there's definitely pitch in places,
Oh, I know.
but it's also quite flat, so he's done a very careful bunch of point elevations. It might clarify it for you.
So where is your place, sir, on the map?
I'm right here,
That's the garage?
right? This is where the garage is, right here, this is Dock Lane. This is where the elevation is higher, maybe 2 feet higher than over here. You asphalt this, the water eventually is going to run this way, because at one time I owned this place, and this was all asphalted, but it didn't have this rise, and it was always pitched to go down to exactly where you are directing it right now. That's always been pitched that way. But my concern, and I'm sure you're going to address it, I don't want to have water in my garage when we have that 5-inch torrential rain.
Right.
And it can't run off fast enough.
Right.
And you said it'll handle 1 inch.
This volume will handle the increase off-site, the increase in runoff it'll handle. A hard rain, as you say, is going to come down, it's going to come toward your garage before it goes this way.
What's to ensure that it does go that way at this point? If this has got raised up here in that speed, there's no absorption in this area.
No.
Once you asphalt it.
It's 0.7% pitch going this way. And
My garage is right here, that water coming off there,
it's going to go down and then continue to the east. We're lowering it 2 inches from what it is now.
or you're going to take up the existing asphalt that's there.
Yes, and where I wasn't clear is if we were to overlay it, you and I would be enemies. 'Cause
Oh,
it's
yeah,
exact-
that's exact, see,
Yes.
the way you said it, 4 inches additional, I went, wait a minute, 4 inches additional, I got a problem.
I'm going to rephrase it.
Well
We're
done.
going to reconstruct it.
One other quick question.
Yep.
How high are these growths of trees in this area, which, by the way, that's a sun-dried sanitation system that runs off to this?
Right.
How high are those trees that you're going to put in there? Is this going to obstruct any of our views?
John
You've got a
Cunningham will
gazebo
answer.
going in there, and you said trees, but they said miniature trees. But I didn't see anything on the plans when I looked at site plan.
Here we go. These are the guys that think.
Well, these,
These are going to be probably dwarf apple trees.
is it going to block the people's view here? How about the gazebo? How high is the gazebo?
I'm just going to guess the ceiling, the underneath portion, ceiling is probably going to be about 8 feet tall. Probably going to be a 12-inch rafter that's probably going to run back up. So is it going to block? No. Is it going to soften? Yes.
Is it going to block the people over here, the Wilsons, the Morons,
Not block. Not block. I don't think block's the right word. I think
obstruct?
soften.
Soften, that's a different word than obstruct.
Soften.
Thanks.
Thanks, Andy.
So that's a valid point. Is this going to impact the viewscape of the people on that road that runs along the parking lot in a negative way?
There's only one house.
Along, not
Over here, is it
Seaview.
more,
Is it, no, not that way, Seaview.
Seaview is here.
Right, so the people on the
And here's,
left-hand side of
the
that
first
garage-
house is, this is all garage. This is the first house here.
Sweetheart, along here, there are houses, I think, and they walk across there to the...
Okay. You're saying the houses on the other side of Seaview Terrace.
Right, they have a view right now that looks out onto the sound, but that might impact. I didn't think of that.
They're fairly distinct, I mean, John can tell you better than I can, but fairly distinct deciduous trees, not very large. I actually think if anything, it adds a little scale and context to that. You can see through them. Everything's set up so it's a kind of a medium-low canopy. So, I mean, it's definitely going to change things a little bit, but also, I mean, this area, if anything, we're just trying to make it nicer. Remember how overgrown that was?
So we couldn't see, are you saying they couldn't see anyway?
Well, they couldn't see before, but currently we've cleared it and we have a conservation staff. But that's not really, I'm not making that argument. I'm saying I think the proposed trees actually really soften and improve the view and frame the view, but that's my opinion.
As part of this application, did you have to give notice to those neighbors?
Yes.
And
your staff has, the copies of all this.
that's fine. No, we're good.
Rich, the one thing we are proposing to do, there's a large choke cherry that's right on the corner. It's on our land, that's full of poison. We're taking that all down. So we're removing the existing material. There are going to be, it might just be 2 instead of 3. They're fastigiate or columnar trees, so they're like this pen. They don't spread out. That's why I chose those. So they're columnar in nature. I don't think that the view corridor, at least from this house here, they're still going to have a view. Nothing's going to block it, but it is going to be baffled or softened a little bit more than it is right now.
And during the initial application, and my memory's a little foggy, we had the fire chief saying that he needed certain turn radiuses.
He's got it.
He's got everything, he's happy. Okay, good.
That was Tom Stevens for the record. That was done as part of the original application, and the driveway has not changed except for the proposed paving. We did all the turning radii for all the emergency vehicles.
Just to add in, I also, at a preliminary level of this, explicitly discussed with the fire department the east lane, and they don't use that for fire access, so they had no issue as we closed that.
And at no time, the current roadway that's going to get softened into a smaller current roadway, a future roadway, That's not used for any emergency vehicles at any time for any reason, is that correct?
At this stage, you could still drive an ambulance down it, the way we're proposing it, but it's not set up for fire truck access, and they don't, the fire department told me that they don't use it. I mean, they have very good sight on both sides, I mean, very good access, so that's how typically they would deal with an emergency. And that was actually the first step in the process of this. I checked about that.
Nice presentation.
Anybody else have any questions? Yes, sir. Come up
Good
for
evening, my name is Wayne Koutras. I live at 23 Seaview Terrace, which is the, let me see where I am. Right here. And our view, my wife and I, we look directly out. We have a patio here that we enjoy that gives us views through the back and out across into the marina. And my concern is that that's going to change our view of the marsh throughout the back of the property. This gentleman, the landscape designer, said that the dwarf apple trees, I don't know how high they grow, and also I'm concerned with the height of the gazebo and pergola. Also, the usage there, I want you to also understand that they've been extremely, extremely good neighbors to all of us in the neighborhood, and we appreciate the improvements they've made so far. But I think that we would be opposed to the gazebo and the pergola, if that's the correct term for it, as it would affect our view out the back, which this gentleman stated they did make improvements. They cleared, I think you took junk cars out of that back area and did a lot of work to make it as nice as it is right now. So we have gained from their hard work, but also in the fall, when all this died off, we had beautiful views at that time prior to their work. So we would like to keep that. So it is a concern to me. I would like to see, you know, how high it really is and what it's going to look like for us. So I wanted you to all hear that. Thank you for listening to me.
Thanks.
Tom, do we know what, did you guys tell us what it looks like, or it's going to look like the picture, but we don't know what it's going to look like?
We can easily provide a site section for the next meeting, which I think would help verify things.
Yeah, that would probably be good, because we can address his concerns.
See what concerns there were or not.
Good. That's perfect.
Okay. We'll do this again at the next meeting, but is there anybody here that would like to speak against this application right now? Anybody would like to speak in favor of it? Okay, so we'll continue this to the second public hearing.
We continue to 11/2 for second public hearing.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, thank you on that one. Joseph Bergen, PC, architect, PC, 65 Highland Avenue, map 9, lot 41, zone R2, special permit, application modification of approval, special permit to conform with original conditions of approval. First public hearing to be continued until, this meeting is going to be continued to 11/2.
Good evening, I'm Joe Bergen, Joseph Bergen Architect, with offices in Essex, Connecticut. I'm here representing my clients who are the new homeowners at 65 Highland Avenue. Just a little bit of history on that property. The former owners appeared before this commission in 2005 for a special permit to increase the size of the house, I believe by adding a dormer. And so that triggered the requirement for this special permit. At that time, the existing house had 3 bedrooms. There were 3 bedrooms on the second floor and none on the first floor. The health department, Mr. Johnson, gave his conditions of approval stating that, well, the house was, it was not conforming at that point with 3 bedrooms because it was only permitted to have 2. So one of the conditions of Mr. Johnson was to reduce the number of bedrooms. There was another condition to reduce a certain square footage of area to be converted from conditioned space to non-conditioned space. But the key thing here that's provoked my application is in the language that the commission used to acknowledge the condition of Mr. Johnson, it said to reduce the number of bedrooms on the second floor from 2 to 1. So now fast forward to present day. That homeowner violated the special permit. They constructed 5 bedrooms. They attempted to sell the house, and the assessor's office discovered this through the MLS, and the planning and zoning issued a cease and desist based on this evidence, requiring the homeowner to conform with the 2005 conditions of the special permit. The homeowner was unable to afford that, and my client purchased the house from them. We designed a renovation that would reduce the bedrooms from 5 to 2, and we proposed to have both bedrooms on the second floor. However, the conditions of the original special permit used particular language that said that there could only be 1 bedroom. I could read it. I wrote a letter to you all. It's in there. Pardon me if I don't get the language exact at this moment, but because the original special permit, the construction plans were to have a certain configuration of bedrooms, the statement from the wording said bedrooms on second floor are reduced from 2 to 1. So on that basis, because we now are proposing to have 2 bedrooms on the second floor, it's not exactly in conformance to the language of the original special permit. And so I'm here asking you to amend that language so that we can put 2 bedrooms on the second floor. It's really a very straightforward matter. It didn't.
It didn't address any?
No.
It didn't say it can go from 1 to 2? Or?
I have a copy of Mr. Johnson's letter. Condition 1 was second floor, sorry, it's hard to read because it's blurry.
Well, let me ask you, here's what he was concerned about is there were too many bedrooms there, the septic system or something like that.
Originally in 2005.
So he
Correct.
approved 2 bedrooms.
He approved 2 bedrooms.
The problem is that it also said only 1 on the second floor, which means the other one had to be on the first floor if you're going to have 2. So all we're doing is saying 2, and do we really care whether they're on the first or second floor?
He was describing the construction plan before him. There's nothing in the health code, there's nothing in the zoning regulation that talks about where a bedroom can occur on the first floor or the second floor.
Conform to the number of bedrooms that he was concerned about, is just you want them both on the second floor.
Exactly. So we're here so that ultimately we're not violating the words that were used in that original special permit. Well, I mean,
So kind not to say.
it described the situation at the time. And had that homeowner not violated it, we wouldn't be here.
I think so. Do we really need to go to a second public hearing?
We absolutely do, unfortunately.
Anybody in the audience have any questions? Do we have any questions? Is anybody besides me confused?
I don't.
I think we're good.
Okay, all right, anybody want to speak in favor or against this? Okay, someone move, we close
I
this.
move we close. Continue.
I move
Continue.
continue.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll second it.
11-2 for a mandatory second public hearing.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so it'll be another meeting, and that will hopefully get it straightened out.
Great, thanks very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay,
I think we could get that one done on the next meeting.
We're going to work hard for it. We can make it
Last
a letter
up.
an hour before the meeting.
last up tonight is John Markowski, Town of Guilford, Shack on Grass Island, Neck Road, map 25, lot 11, coastal zone R6, coastal area management site plan modification to rebuild porch, floor, and roof, 273-91. Hi, sir.
Good evening, how are you?
Good.
My name's John Markowski from 9 Oakwood Drive in Guilford. I'm a Boy Scout here in town working towards the rank of Eagle. And so with that, for my Eagle Scout project, I chose restoring the Grass Island Shack. It's been months in the making of fundraising and planning and meeting with town officials. To date, I've raised $27,000. I've accrued many volunteers and professional contractors that will help with the rebuild. Currently, we've completed the first 2 phases of the project. The first being the demolition, which was removing the old porch and old roof. They were in really bad shape and deteriorating, so we removed those. And then professional contractors came in and straightened out the structure. From past hurricanes and strong winds, it had been twisted, so we straightened that out. And now going forward, we're ready to begin with the rebuild. I have professional framing contractors lined up that will come in and rebuild the porch, and then professional contractors lined up as well to do the roof. For the framers, I've met with them, and they said they only need a couple of days out there. And the same thing for the roofers. It's not that big of a structure, so the rebuild shouldn't take that long to complete. That's about all I have.
So I saw one of the conditions is that you remove all the debris immediately after it's there. And I know that you are being meticulous about it. There has not been any time when you have ever left any debris for any reason anywhere on Grass Island. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Just since everyone's going to be watching on camera, you have a need for some boats to carry more stuff across in the next couple of weeks, don't you?
That's correct.
When would that be?
I was looking to begin this Saturday, but I was not able to find a boat large enough to move material over. So that will most likely take place next weekend.
Right. So if anyone is watching on camera and wants to get involved in a good cause for the town and help you out, and they have a boat, this would be a good opportunity for them to step up to the plate.
There are 2 letters in the file. First
What do
one
they say?
Dated October 19th from Kevin McGee.
Yep.
The information provided indicates that they are rebuilding the porch and floors of the shack on Grass Island in order to make sure that the coastal resources are protected. During the construction process, I recommend the following conditions of approval. Waste materials generated by the performance of work shall be cleaned up daily and disposed of off-island at an upland site approved for the disposal of such materials. You also have a letter from John Goucher, Office of Long Island Sound Programs. We have reviewed the above referenced proposal for consistency with the CAM Act policies and have no comments for the Planning and Zoning Commission's consideration.
Good.
Basically, it's saying just clean up properly.
Yep.
What are you gonna use it for? What's the objective, site plan? Long-range plan for?
Just to have it back open to the public. I mean,
For public use, or what use?
just as a park.
So they can stay, guess, and have them overnight, or?
Yeah.
No?
We will be closing off access to the upstairs.
You will?
Yeah, so that, because I think the issue was people were able to get on the roof and stuff, which naturally wasn't
Yeah,
safe.
Right now, it's in pretty terrible condition.
Right, so the improvements that we'll make will allow that fence to come off. Well, it's gone now, but it won't have to be fenced off, and it will be safe for people to go out there again.
When do you expect to have this thing completed, accomplished?
I would say middle of November,
Oh, wow.
that's
a tight calendar.
everything's all set for the rebuild. And with professional crews lined up, they should be able to knock it out pretty quick.
Okay. You got power out there and all that?
Generators.
You do, generators?
Yep, we bring generators out there.
That's the building, that's for building only, that's not to have it in the house. The house is not gonna be occupied, it is merely gonna be a scenic thing where people can go out there on their day off and sit on the porch and enjoy it. That's all it's for, it's not to inhabit people, or we don't want people being inhabited in there. And it's gonna be.
So that's not gonna happen,
Porch when,
is that correct?
when you're done. So,
You're not gonna have a camp out there or something like that?
No.
Yeah,
Okay, very good.
Are you doing, you're arranging all this? You're
I'm the guy in
coordinating
charge.
it?
Yep.
You got a future in contracting and management or funding.
Project management.
well, actually, while we have an opportunity, I think you're doing a great job. I think your dad did a great job bringing you up, and I wish everybody in Guilford was involved as you are and as your dad is. So good for you. Great work.
Thank you.
Good job. Thanks. I moved, someone want to move this be,
Continue.
no.
Not this one.
Nope.
I second the,
Can we vote?
Yes.
He made a motion, yeah,
Oh,
and you seconded it, right?
Yes.
All in favor of closing the public hearing? Aye, okay. So, we have three that we can move on tonight. Number Country Realty, Gary Terwilliger, and John Markowski. Why don't we just run through these? Someone read a motion for Country Realty.
Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a special permit for Country Realty, 3049 Boston Post Road, map 83, lot 3, for an accessory building over 750 square feet, as shown on an application dated 9/6/2016. The application is approved based upon a finding that it conforms with with the zoning code. The special permit is effective October 28th, 2016, upon filing with the town clerk.
second.
Weren't there some conditions with that one that
Yes,
needed to be
there were.
included?
Kevin McGee. That's
Got
the
came in today.
drip for the thing, and also,
Say that you just referenced Kevin McGee's letter dated October 19th, 2016.
The conditions on Kevin's
Yeah.
letter.
yep,
Reset.
there you go. I think we've got it pretty much covered. I think we're ready to go.
Anybody want anything?
No, I think, based on the input we've had from Kevin, the applicants agree that he would conform to it, so I don't see any reason why we shouldn't grant the application.
Okay, all right.
I'd like to just know, I wasn't here at the meeting, however, I did watch the video, so I will be.
Right, same with
Okay.
me.
Okay, good. All right, all those in favor of this application, please say aye.
Aye.
Voting. Okay, it was unanimous. Next one up is Mr. Terwilliger. Someone want to read that?
Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a special permit for Gary Terwilliger at 1725 Little Meadow Road, map 97, lot 32, for an accessory apartment as shown on an application dated 6/1/16. This application is approved with the following conditions: that a septic system to serve the new apartment be installed prior to occupancy. This application is approved based upon a finding that it conforms with the zoning code. The special permit is effective October 28th, 2016.
Second.
This is pretty straightforward. This is exactly why we give these permissions. This is great.
Okay. Met everything with wetlands and all?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so let's vote on it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, I think it was unanimous. Anybody abstaining or not voting?
Okay, I'll read the next one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, here's the condition.
Yeah, I got it. Mr. Chairman, I'm pleased to make a motion that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve the coastal area management plan for John Markowski in the town of Guilford for the renovation of the Grass Island Shack on Grass Island. Map 25, lot 11 is shown on the application dated 9/2016. Grass Island Shack, 3 sheets prepared by Spindrift Design dated 7/1/45/16, one of those dates. And the application is approved with the conditions stated in Kevin McGee's letter of October the 19th.
Second.
Very nice.
Any additional comments? No?
I think it's a great project. And
Yeah, it is.
I could not endorse it more.
All
I'm
right.
pleased to support it.
Right,
Good
there's, based with the conditions that are attached, it'll conform to the CAMAP regulations.
Yep.
And it is a site plan, so it does meet all the requirements of the regulations, so I think we should go ahead and approve it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, let's move on to,
Is that it?
yep, for tonight. So,
We've got,
regular meeting approval of revised agenda, someone move that.
So moved.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Under other, endorse submission of a pre-development grant application for assistance under the Housing of Economic Growth Program and consider the creation of one or more housing incentive zones. George, would you like to speak to this, please?
A little bit of history. You'll probably recall that approximately 2 years ago, we the town, created a affordable housing development committee. You appointed one of your members to this committee, Josh. The committee, along with the Board of Selectmen and also endorsed by this commission, sought a grant to do a Phase 1 study of potential sites for affordable housing development, sites that had access to public transit. We received a grant to do that. We completed the study, which identified, I think, 8 or 9 sites that had sewage disposal capacity and also had access to public transportation and also appeared to be reasonably representative of properties that could be developed for multifamily housing. One of the sites on that list was a property owned by the town, located on Driveway, which is the name of a road that serves as access to the Public Works Garage. You may be familiar with it. That site has very good access to the train station. The committee, the Affordable Housing, the Housing for Economic Development Committee, recommended that the town look more closely at that site to attempt to encourage or create opportunities where it might be developed for affordable housing. The Board of Selectmen agreed. In July, they adopted a motion to authorize the committee to submit a grant application to the Department of Housing for funds to perform a feasibility study on that property to assess in more detail the potential for development of that property. That grant application also asks that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve that application. You have before you a copy of the scope of work that we've drafted, which, if funded, will be carried out under the auspices of the Board of Selectmen and the Housing Planning Committee. Essentially, it's a preliminary feasibility study. We're seeking $50,000 grant, which would then be used to retain professional services to do preliminary design, do surveying, do assessment of constraints and opportunities on the site, look in more detail at the issues associated with that particular property, sewage disposal, flooding, wetlands, develop a preliminary cost for the project, assess the neighborhood impacts, review the project with neighbors, and if successful, if that feasibility study turns out to be successful, it would move to a second stage where the town, again pursuant to all the required approvals, Board of Selectmen, Planning and Zoning, town meeting and others, would make the property available to developers on a competitive basis to develop the property. The first step in moving this all forward, actually the second step now that this preliminary study was done, is to secure the funding. So with that kind of preliminary introduction, I'm asking that, as required by the grant application, I'm asking you to endorse this application. This is not an endorsement of any project. This is not approval of any project. This is merely an indication on your part that you agree with the Board of Selectmen and the Housing Committee that this
that we should move forward and seek funds to do this study.
George, I got a question for you.
Maybe before you.
Yeah, let me just, I'd like to give some
Josh,
background
can add to that.
information to discuss, before some further discussion. The committee has been relatively active, almost on a monthly basis since it started. And I know that we have done a pretty decent job at making it very clear to the community as a whole what the sites are that we're looking at, and to try to get further input from the community, pick which site specifically. And we are working with other town committees, the Interfaith Housing Committee, and we've recognized this as being a need, and that's why there are grants available at the state level to investigate. I think we spent the first grant effectively, even though we came all the way full circle to identifying a town property. And the second grant, and getting our approval to have George go after the second grant, I think would be very useful towards furthering our goal of increasing affordable housing in Guilford. And one of the underlying currents, I guess, of the committee has been explaining what affordable housing actually is in Guilford. And I think it'd be helpful, especially for new committee members, to understand that means, in Guilford, that means individuals who are making around $85,000 a year can't afford to live in those houses. So it's different than affordable housing, sort of is sort of like on a scale. In New Haven, affordable housing is going to be different than affordable housing is in Guilford. So the project would be tasteful to begin, no matter what way we look at this, and I don't see why there would be any hesitation towards going after this grant, and also taking the steps to say that we would look at different zone changes to our code to encourage affordable housing in Guilford. I mean, looking at something is not necessarily committing to anything, and having an opportunity to go after a state grant. I mean, I don't know why any town committee would not encourage something like that. So I think it's important, and George has been taking very diligent steps forward. I'm sure he's one of the few town employees actively going after grants on a regular basis. So
They all do.
I'd like to say that that's a very nice thing, George.
So now can I ask my question?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So by saying yes to this, is this somehow or another going to tie into the proposed septic treatment system that you guys want to build? No?
Whatever development is going to occur on this site have to be served by on-site sewage there. It's not connected to Pages Lane, if that was your question.
Okay. Now, are they going to build this on the Woodruff property?
This is on the portion of the property that was acquired. I think it's identified as Woodruff property. It's on that part of the property that's accessed from driveway, if you're familiar with it. It's kind of right across the street from the Public Works garage.
Wasn't there some issue with the prior use of that?
There's contamination there. There's also potential for, it was also proposed at one time as additional parking for the train station. So there are quite a number of issues that will have to be addressed in this study, including what commitments we made to DOT for that. So it's complicated.
So, I don't want to step you down into the question,
I'm
but,
done.
so one of the things I'm always concerned about is that when you get money from somebody, they're always looking for something.
Is that how that works?
That's how it works.
Right.
So what hooks are accompanying this amount of money? For example, do we have to build it a certain way?
Just so you know, this has nothing to do with actually building on this site. There's a chance that we go through this and determine that, yeah, we can't, not only that we can't, but also no one's interested in putting up a project on this site. So we can, put all this time and energy into this one location, and it's going to turn out to be absolutely nothing. This is just to make it more attractive for someone to come in here and build on that site. That's
Without doubt, the state is trying to encourage suburban towns to develop affordable housing, especially in locations that are accessible to public transportation. That's where this grant is there. they wouldn't be, they're giving, if they do this, they want us to.
So there are no votes then? In other words, they can't, because we signed this for this grant, when
No.
we get to do something, whether we, if we did, and we did something, there's a line in the document somewhere that says that you have to use prevailing wage for all the people that are in there.
Those types of requirements would be pertinent to whatever kind of grants are actually given to the developer if we got to that stage. That doesn't pertain to anything that we're doing right now.
And you wouldn't be applying for those grants to develop it.
We wouldn't be doing that. The concept here is if this continues to look favorable, if the feasibility study turns out to be proper and that everything looks feasible, if the neighborhood likes it, if the Board of Selectmen and town meeting agree, because we're disposing of town property under this scenario, which requires town meeting approval, we would solicit proposals from developers to develop the housing in accordance with the plan that we come up with this study, and that then developers would submit proposals. They would tell us how they're going to fund them. If they had state or federal grants, they would be responsible for playing by whatever rules pertain to the grants. So that's still down the road a ways.
So are we in a position yet where we can look forward to density, or we have no idea what density?
Well, that's part of the study, to determine what kind of density this site could actually support. The committee envisions this to be, because of the location and because of the property that we have, to be a fairly small development. We're talking about something in the 8 or 10, 12 units, that type of size range, probably.
So if you come up River Street, and you go across that street, there's a very nice little development in there that's got houses that are all clustered together.
River Street?
North
What are you
River
talking
Street.
about?
North River Street.
North River Street.
You come across.
Al Jacobs.
Sunset.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
behind the old mill there,
Yeah.
between the mill and Route 1. Is that potentially something that you could be looking at here?
That's a private development of single-family homes, if I'm thinking what you're talking about. This would probably end up looking sort of style-wise like a development that's near there called Rollwood. You know, it's, again, that's part of this study, is to look at what kind of, do we want to do townhouses? Do we want to do single-family houses? Do we want to do a garden apartment type development? That would all be part of this study, to address those issues. But we don't have any preconceived. Sure.
Just, yeah, craft one.
You can use the words in the
I can do it real quick.
Go.
I'd like to make a motion that the Planning and Zoning Committee approve the town planner to.
Why don't you use the exact?
Why don't we endorse the submission of a
Endorse the submission of a pre-developed grant application for a system under the Housing for Economic Growth Program and consider the creation of one or more housing incentive zones.
Second.
Any other discussion?
Well, my only discussion that I have a question for, so if you get into this and you have this $50,000 grant, part of it is talking about environmental assessments, so, I mean, a phase one can come back anywhere from, I think on a low end of $3,000 all the way up to $10,000. If you're required to do a phase two, we're gonna be upwards of, depending on the scope, $20,000 to $25,000. Then that could yield, you know, at what point do we pull it?
Yeah, 50,000 is the maximum grant that we can get, so whatever, we wouldn't be able to go to a phase two if that was required. That would be something that any future developer would be, would have to undertake.
So we're not gonna be incurring any costs?
No, the only town cost is the time of town staff who might be working on this, and also our volunteer committee.
Well, it
which
says
is-
in-kind services.
That's me.
So if you do a phase one, currently the town owns it. If you do a phase one and you discover that there's all kinds of gasoline and stuff in the ground, are we as a town obligated in any way to fix that up now that we've discovered it? Is there a risk of that before we get a developer on board and wants to develop it?
No, I don't believe so. Those issues have already been addressed, at least partly, because we started to do design for a parking lot there. Yeah, right.
I heard that the ground almost can catch fire there this summer.
I'm good.
You gotta call the vote.
That could be a nice tourist attraction.
Lightning Guilford.
Okay. Any more discussion on this? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Thank you. Anybody against this? Nope, okay. 2, discussion and interpretation of a setback from coastal resources for pet boarding facilities.
This is a question of interpretation for you. It has to do with a
an apparent conflict in our regulations in two different places with regard to what the setback from coastal resources would be for a dog care facility, pet boarding facility, more precisely. You'll remember that several months ago, the commission amended its zoning code upon a petition from a private entity to amend the zoning code to allow so-called pet boarding facilities in the I-2 zone. In fact, we talked about potential development of a property on Soundview Road for such a facility. You've actually already received a special permit application and scheduled a public hearing for that pet boarding facility. The first hearing is scheduled for November 2nd, I believe. In the proposed and approved language for pet boarding facilities, the applicant identified and the commission approved a setback from coastal resources, a minimum setback for buildings and structures, which you see on this first page that I think you have in front of you. It's the under 273-22F, setback from coastal resource. You said in this approved regulation, no building or structure shall be less than 25 feet from a coastal resource. That's particular to the use that's discussed in that section of the zoning code, the pet boarding facility use. Upon reviewing the application that's currently before us, Kevin noted, and Kevin can address this issue himself. He has a memo before you, actually, which I'm sure he'd like to expand on. He noticed that in some circumstances, that 25-foot setback would conflict with the coastal the generic coastal setback requirements, which are described in our regulations 273-91H, where we have this formula, which is shown on the next set of pages you have, that identifies certain minimum setbacks from various coastal resources, depending on which coastal resource you're actually talking about, and also depending on what the so-called development depth is, which is defined in the zoning code for that particular site. And as we discovered in the proposed application for the Metro Pooch Pet Care Facility, the application of that standard under H would be 35 feet would be the minimum required setback from coastal resource. So we have a situation where we adopted the zoning code with a specific setback, minimum setback for a specific use, namely pet care facilities, pet boarding facilities, which is less restrictive than, at least in some cases, the coastal setback would be as provided in 273-91. Is that clear? So the question is, which is applicable in this particular case? Let me just note also that the applicant and property owner for the Metro Pooch are here to have their say on this particular subject. They have, as I mentioned, prepared a plan and submitted it to us based on the 25-foot standard, which they actually proposed for that particular use. But in our recent review, as a matter of fact, as of yesterday, we discovered that there's this issue of the 35 feet, and the question before the commission then now is, which is the appropriate standard?
Let me try to sort of cut to the chase here. Is there any state or a regulation or statute that controls that, Kevin? Or is it left to the town to decide, like in 273-91H?
The state has no standard setback. It's up to us and our regulations that create the distances which we created in our zoning code there.
And trying to read these two in harmony, it's clear to me that we intended to override 273-91 by making a change here. If we had left it silent, then 273-91H would apply. But because we added verbiage to change it to 25 feet, I don't really see a conflict here at all. I think 273-22F should control. So it should be 25 feet from the coastal resource.
I have a quick question for the applicant. Is 35 feet a problem? Okay. Kevin, so why is 35 feet, what is the environmental concern that you have?
The environmental concern is when we created the regulations, the original regulations before we changed it maybe 10 years ago, was it set 25 foot. The committee at the time which created the new regulations looked at what the state guidelines for us, and it's basically they want us to start increasing setbacks to protect the coastal resources. Look at our plan of conservation development, the coastal resilience plan, especially next to tide marshes, is looking for things to be moved further inland and away from the wetlands. So the zoning that we created, which created the sliding scale, was looking at the size of your property. I think the committee at the time wanted to move things larger, but they knew that by creating a larger setback, it was going to make properties not conforming, so they created a zoning code where your setback is based on your distance to your front build line or to an impervious surface, constructed impervious surface on that property if it's an already existing use. This is a vacant lot, so the measurements taken from the coastal jurisdiction line, natural resource line, to the front building line, which determines your front setback, in this case was 35 feet. If it's a narrower property, it would have been 25 feet, but the way this one's controlled is a 35-foot setback.
And, George, I think I have a logistical question here. We made this change to the zoning code, and an application was submitted to us under the pretenses of our zoning code as it was at the time of the application. Even if we wanted to change it to even if we wanted to change 273-22F to reference 273-91H for the coastal for the setback for coastal resources, would that not apply to this current application?
Right, the current application would be governed by the current regulations.
Which is,
So, I mean, it would have to be.
Yeah.
If we want to change it in the future, we certainly can, but they filed with the filing date when this was the regulation. So we're bound by it. Right.
The question that comes in is the coastal area management regulations are set up in a way that my understanding is that, and this is where when Chuck Ingo's making it come into play, is that I believe they're set up to override the underlying zoning of that area.
That's why I asked you, is there anything specific in there that says it has to be 25 or 30?
In our regulations, section 273-91D, applicability of the coastal area management regulation states the following site plans and applications for activities or projects to be fully or partially within the coastal boundary and landward the mean high tide mark within the coastal area jurisdiction shall be defined as a coastal site plan and shall be subject to the requirements of this section. And that's why I say, based on my review of this regulation, the zoning code changed to allow pet boarding facilities in the I-2 zone by special permit. Section 273-91H, setback from critical resources, would be superseded by the zoning in the underlying zone.
Well, see, my question, though, was, I can understand it if it's a state regulation or a state statute. We can't change it in the
I'm
zoning
not sure if
code.
that terminology is within the state regulations. That would have to be checked.
Maybe, I think Attorney Shield might have an opinion on this specific
Are
part.
you here to represent the applicants? or-
I'm here on behalf of the property owner, Soundview.
Okay.
LLC.
Maybe you can enlighten me.
I can try. I kind of came into this at the 11th hour, so to speak, this afternoon. Commissioner Bauer, I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head tonight. This application was put in several months ago through a very long and tedious process by my client in collaboration with the town. The language here was designed specifically to address the coastal setback resource issue and the setback of 25 feet. If that is not controlling,
then that language that was just enacted by this commission is completely superfluous. The applicant does have a site plan, you know, the permit is on file. They put in their application for that now. They have, as every other property owner in town, the right to rely on the regulations as they stand. Their application stands based on the regulations as they are right now enacted. And this is a 25-foot setback from the coastal resources. That's what, they're in compliance with that application. What we're dealing with here is honestly maybe a little ambiguity in the language, but the intent and purpose of the language was to supersede 273-91H.
I agree 100%.
This is partly answer your previous question, if I understood it correctly, Ray. This is the only place, the 273-22F, this is the only place where there is a specification of a coastal setback other than this section which applies to everything. So, and this was obviously developed after the original language.
I mean, so you have to say it was clear that we intended to override it, but my question still is, the only leg I could see anybody standing on is if there is a state statute or a state regulation that takes precedence over local zoning. Then I don't see there's any ambiguity here. It's 25 feet.
I have one further question, but maybe, Tom, you could help me. You kind of came up with this, our regulation that we have incorporated in our code right now. And why did you include the setback from coastal resource provision in it when, I guess, George is saying that the majority of our regulations do not include.
None of the other regulations.
None of the other regulations do. So why did you include that in this section?
When we came in 2009, it was the same. It was 3 lots, which we're now combining into one. We had 3 separate site plan approvals, and those 2 of the closest buildings were 27 to 28 feet from the critical coastal resource. I wanted to make this current application as close to what that was for ease of approval. The public access way that we have out for viewing platform is, we have not touched that, we haven't changed it. So I wanted to mimic the approvals that we acquired in 2009. Of course, all is now getting all turned upside down. There's all different players at the state level. But the buildings are 27 feet then, so 25 seemed like a reasonable number not to go less than.
And were you aware of 273-91H when you were drafting this regulation?
Yes, we've used that regulation on different individual houses, that type of thing.
Okay. But since you had these other applications that were 27 feet, you thought that 25 feet would be reasonable to include in this?
Because it already had local and state approval, I said this is the number we want, so let's be specific about what we want. I talked to George about it. I said, you know, the front setback, I said, is 50 foot to the street line. I said, that's tough on a lot like this where it's forcing you back. And at least the way the regulations are now, you can't have a pet boarding facility. You need to rewrite the regulation. So I thought the same ingredients would be the things to put into the regulation.
I think irrespective of any of this, we are not in a position to make any changes to this application. I do think, though, it would be prudent to make this provision in line with our coastal resilience going forward, so maybe that's something that should go back to the zoning committee.
I would agree.
What the planning committee is, as you know, they've been reviewing coastal resilience recommendations. They're going to be looking at this whole section of setback requirements from coastal resources, and also, as that relates, as just Tom said, to street line setbacks. One of the things we might end up doing is reducing street line setbacks for coastal properties so the buildings can be pushed closer to the street so as to obviate the need to put pressure on the coastal resource, which typically is in the backyard. So the planning committee is going to be addressing that.
You want me to try to make one, or we need to?
I think it's really, do we really need a motion?
Interpret what this means.
Well, okay, I'll make a motion that in this particular case, section 273-22F, is controlling in that it states a 25-foot setback from the coastal resource and not 273-91H.
I second that.
Any further discussion about this?
Nothing to discuss.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that there, I mean, I really believe that we need to be in line with our regulations and the coastal resilience plan but I don't think that this is an opportunity to make that change, but I do think we need to make that change going forward.
I agree.
I agree.
Okay. All in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
Everybody voted, I think, in favor? Anybody? Nobody? Okay, next up is... Thank you.
We were going to get a copy of this schedule.
There it is. I got it. It's here.
My folder is missing everything.
It's toward the end, second to last page.
Must be you.
Because I have to go to the bathroom.
There are 17 on here, I think. I counted them.
So have we had any complaints from the neighbors since we've adopted this scheme?
16.
They just pointed out there are 3 fewer events next year than there were this year. I'm not aware of any.
I don't see anybody different on this than that were there this year.
Well, it does say at the bottom here that the Guilford School, I'm not sure why, I'll just say this as a comment. I'm not sure why when we're having school events that the school, that they're there gratis. I don't know why they're included in this list.
I think we require all events, so it would be hard to, it's probably just easier for them to
But didn't we
submit
put some limit on that?
Wherever we had a hole, people jumped through the hole, so we kind of made it airtight.
Okay.
Another copy?
Yeah, you can have mine.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, what else we got?
Guilford likes doing a little golf course test tournament.
I'll read a letter into the record.
Please, go right
The Parks and Recreation Department, in collaboration with the Guilford Lakes Golf Commission, has scheduled a disc golf tournament at the golf course on Saturday, November 5th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Disc golf is a growing sport, and we have scheduled the event at the golf course to help draw attention to this beautiful town facility. To make it a family-friendly, fun event, we plan to have a band playing, music on the clubhouse deck from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., provide a moon bounce, and have a food truck. Per Reggie Reed's request, I am sending this memo to inform the Planning and Zoning Commission of our plans and in hopes the commission has no reservations about our collaboration with the Golf Course Commission for this one-day special event.
So any mention of what kind of crazy music
From
we're playing?
Rick Mayer, Parks and Rec Director. Is there any action that we need to take on this?
I'm a clown.
I don't know, did they ask to be
Well, I think
approved?
this is just an FYI.
I don't know, does it require approval?
No.
Okay, we're good.
No bills?
No, we
I
don't.
do got a big
I make a
bill.
motion, we pay this $432.
Jeez,
For the
ridiculous.
price of doing government work.
All those in favor of spending $430? Okay.
What about those minutes?
I read them.
I read them, but there was one thing, did you notice anything?
I didn't
I got
notice.
my notebook in there.
Under the issue with 2631 Durham Road, the one requirement we put in there was that he would be in contact with with the fire department or whoever. At the end, it says, it should have the word "of" between safety and occupant. Safety of occupants, not just say safety. Just a typo, that's all.
All right, so with that, I make a motion that we approve it with that change. Second?
All in favor, say aye.
I have to abstain, I wasn't at that meeting.
Mr. Chairman, in as
Yes.
much as there's no more business before this commission, I make a motion that we adjourn.
You got it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next meeting is November
Now we
2nd.
go listen to the mudslinging.